again in God's family. All spiritual events. Proclaiming the good news, and then healing every disease and sickness. And then, if you follow my reasoning, what's the purpose of the healings? Is to confirm the truth about the invisible things that Jesus is talking about. Jesus says, I'm on a mission, a soul mission, a spiritual mission. Well, how do you back that up, Jesus? I'm healing everybody. Everyone who comes to me is going to be healed because I'm out to save people. I'm going to be a great healer, but my primary goal is to be a great Savior. Put it another way, God sent Jesus to save us from our sin and to meet our spiritual needs. Whereas we prioritize the shell, the body, the physical realities, God seems to prioritize the ghost in the shell, the spirit, the soul. Now for me, this begs the question. All these hundreds and thousands of people that got healed by Jesus, did they make the connection? Did they get healed and walk away saying, wow, he's not just a great healer, he's a great Savior? I don't think so. And the Bible seems to think they didn't make the connection. I need to pause here for a second and explain what I mean by Savior. If you read the early parts of the Bible, there's these prophecies that God is going to send a Savior, a Messiah, someone with authority, someone who's going to come down, God's Son, and speak with authority and take charge of the planet and bring things back to God. Sin, a sin of our ancestors, our overt rebellion, our apathy towards God, turning our back on God, living outside of His parameters. All of our ancestors did this, all of us did this. There's a prophecy that God's going to send His Son, the Messiah, the Savior, to come with God's authority and start bringing things back in order. That's the prophecy. And Jesus healed people so people would know He was the fulfillment of that prophecy. He comes to earth with the authority of God, and we can have confidence in Him. Confidence not just that He's going to take care of our lives here on earth, but that He's going to take care of everything. Ultimately, everything. Did these people recognize this? Did they make the connection between their healing and who Jesus was? Probably not. The reason I know this is because we're going to look at a story right now on page 644 where we run into a guy, and in my opinion, he's an awesome guy. He's the kind of guy I can relate to. And he makes the connection between healings and who Jesus really is. And the reason why I kind of like him and relate to him is because he's outside the religious box. We all have kind of a box where we kind of put stereotypical people. The box here is people that God likes, good people, church people. You know, they don't swear, they don't drink, they spend time with other good people, they're nice all the time, they don't raise their voice or yell. And we know you don't fit that box. I don't think I fit that box. Some of you may beg to disagree. But I don't think we fit the classic box that we've created. This is the kind of person that's a God person, a Christian person, a church person, a Ned Flanders type person. They're always singing Christian songs under their breath. The happy people are always smiling. Maybe that's just my box. But you have your own box of what good God people look like. They had a box back then of what good God people look like. People that God would really like. And this guy didn't fit the box because he wasn't a circumcised Jew. He didn't eat the right foods. He didn't have the right ceremonies. In fact, he was a member of the enemies. He was a Roman. So we're going to look at this story, and we're going to see in here how this guy, his name, we don't know his name, but we call him the centurion, how the centurion made the connection between Jesus' healings and who he really was. And in the process, I'm really hoping that we're going to see that if Jesus really has the authority of God on earth, He can do far more than just heal people physically and prolong your life. He can give you freedom from fear, fear of pain, fear of death. And we can have now, because we realize who Jesus is, not distorted, but who He really is, we can now have complete confidence that no matter what happens in our lives, we're going to be okay. That's why I think this guy's story is so important. So page 644, this is Matthew chapter 8, verse 5. It starts off by saying, when Jesus had entered Capernaum, Capernaum being his hometown, city up in the north part of Israel, a centurion, again this is a Roman, he's in charge of 100 soldiers, century, 100 years, centurion, you see the connection there. He has, and these soldiers underneath him, they do whatever he says, and he's underneath the authority of Caesar. This centurion comes to him, asking for help. Now already we know there's something different going on here, because in this society, Israel being a subjugated country, a vassal state of Israel, a vassal state of the Roman Empire, they do not like their oppressors. They do not like the people that are telling them what to do. So Jesus shouldn't have really been friends with this type of guy. And he shouldn't have been asking for help. He should have just been commanding the subjugated people what to do. This guy's different. He comes to Jesus asking for help. You can imagine Jesus' friends, his disciples, his followers, like, okay, this one's different than all these other healings. Something's happening here that's very different. So he comes to Jesus, and he calls him Lord. And this is the first thing we need to learn about faith, is that we come to God. He's the master, we're the servant. He's got everything. We have needs that we can't meet. Lord, he says, Master, my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly. So just like us, he's bringing a physical need of someone he loves to God's attention, to Jesus' attention, and just laying it out there for him. There's a problem at home. Someone I love is very sick. And perhaps Jesus is kind of testing him. He hasn't seen a lot of this before. It's just Jewish people coming to him, a centurion, a Roman. So maybe Jesus here tests him with a little question. Jesus said to him, he says, shall I come and heal him? Maybe he's testing him out. He wants to know what's going on with this guy. This is very different. Let's find out a little bit more. Let's dig a little deeper to why this is here, why this is happening. Now the centurion is going to give an answer that's a little bit complicated, a little bit confusing, and hopefully I can help you make sense of it. Centurion replied, Lord, Master, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. Again he's saying, I'm unworthy, but I have great need. That's the second thing. When we come to God asking for help, we recognize we have great need, and we recognize how we're actually unworthy to receive any help from God. And so this guy does. Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. But just say the word, and my servant will be healed. This already is very different. He knows that Jesus is not just a great healer. He knows that Jesus has power over everything. And he's going to explain it in his next two sentences. What he's going to say is, Jesus, I know who you are. You have the authority of God. You can control anything. You just say the word. So you can speak to sickness, weather. You can speak to anything. You just say the word and you have the complete authority of God. Anything has to obey you. That's what he's going to say in kind of a confusing way. Here's what he says. He says, just say the word and my servant will be healed. Verse 9, for I myself am a man under authority. Caesar's above me. With soldiers underneath me, 100 soldiers that do whatever I tell them. I tell this one, go, and he goes. This one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. What he's expressing here is, he's saying, I get the connection, Jesus. I know all these stories of healings that you've done. I'm bringing my own need of healing. But I get the connection already. You're not just healing people. You have authority. You've come from God. God has given you the authority to have control over everything. That's why you don't need to come in my house. You don't have to wave your arms. You don't have to put mud or spit. We don't need any of that, because you can just say the word. Implication, even if you don't say the word, that doesn't change who you are. I'm not going to lose faith. I'm not going to say there is no God. I'm not going to say I didn't have enough faith. I'm not going to come to any of those conclusions. Even if you don't do it, I still know who you are. You're still the man with the authority of God. You're the great Savior, not just the great healer. So when Jesus heard this man making the connection, he was amazed. He was amazed because this was the first one, perhaps, who had made the connection. And he said to those following him, he wants to make a point of this guy, that this guy understands faith, this guy understands trust, expresses great need, expresses his unworthiness, but then he comes to the conclusion, I know who you are, Jesus. You have the authority of God. You're the Son of God. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed, and he said to those following him, truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. That's a bit of a slap in the face. Jewish Messiah talking to the Jewish followers, restoring the Jewish thing. This Gentile, this enemy of yours, has better faith than all of you. That's why I kind of like this guy. And that's why I kind of like Josh. He grew up outside the church box,